we are building up to the top of the table clash in ICC Cricket World Cup 2019. Two teams that won their opening encounter. You had Bangladesh defeating South Africa, and then New Zealand were the runaway winners versus Sri Lanka in their first game. So whichever team manages to win this encounter will become the first team in this tournament to have won two matches. The last time these two teams were playing were earlier this year in that series after those dastardly attacks that happened in the mosque in Christchurch. That series was cut short, but now these two teams are ready to battle again on the cricket pitch. We've got a packed house on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. Joining me, Daren, Ganga, Ajit, Agarkar in the studio. Shahriar Nafees joins us live on our link, as well as Kyle Mill joining us from New Zealand. And Kyle, I'll start with you straight up. For the next half an hour, we'd be discussing the strengths and weaknesses of both the sides. But if there are any people there who know the strengths and weaknesses of Bangladesh and New Zealand, it is the players of these two teams, considering how often they've played each other in the recent past.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Just recently in the New Zealand summer, the New Zealand side were victorious on that occasion. But Bangladesh put up performances regularly throughout that series. One key player, though, that's playing today that wasn't involved in that series is Shakib Al Hussain. And he is, first and foremost, a great ambassador for Bangladeshi cricket for that country. But he's a very experienced cricketer, good with the ball, good with the bat, and he brings a lot to the party. So he didn't play that series, and he's going to add a lot this time around.
All right. Interesting point he makes about that series that happened. I'll take that to Shahriar. Nafees. Shahriar, that series, unfortunately for Bangladesh, they didn't manage to win a single encounter on their tour to New Zealand. Do you think there'll be any residue of that in this game?
I don't think so. Bangladesh and New Zealand has been playing among themselves for last few years, and they have a lot of series among them. When Bangladesh plays at home, they are dominating. When New Zealand is playing at home, they are dominating. So this is a match which is happening in the neutral venue. And last time Bangladesh faced New Zealand in England, Bangladesh got it right. So hopefully it will be a great encounter today, and we are looking forward to have a very good match.
Okay, in the bit that Shahriar there talking about Bangladesh in neutral venues. The other thing is Bangladesh and ICC tournaments in the recent past have been doing rather well.
Yeah, very well. I think you've seen their progress, I think from 2015 as well. I don't need to go back to 2007, but yeah. It's a one-off game. I don't think what's happened in the past. I mean, New Zealand at the moment playing as well as they have. They always do well in the ICC tournaments themselves, so should be a good match. I think the way the two teams went in that first game tells you we are in for a good contest if both teams play at their best.
And there was no Shakib. We'll keep talking about that series, but no Shakib, and now him coming back just changes the complexion of the match.
Yeah, and it's his diversity as a player and what he brings to this Bangladesh team that makes him so potent and instrumental. He scores runs with the bat, like he did in the last game, had a good partnership with Mishfiqur Rahim. And then with the ball, he picked up a wicket and he was crucial in terms of the bowling. So to have an all-rounder of that caliber and that stature, I think we no longer classify Bangladesh as a lesser team in ODI cricket. I think they can compete against the best and win. They've shown that when they played against South Africa. I think these two teams are teams which are similar in terms of mental state, coming off wins. The only thing for New Zealand, they've not been tested in terms of their batting, but you look at Kane Williamson and what he's achieved whilst playing in England. I think his last, 7 or 8 matches there, at least a 50 he scored. So he is very good in English conditions. So both teams with their strengths, and this should prove for a very good contest.
All right, we're getting latest updates there from the Oval. New Zealand have won the toss and have decided to field first. I'll take that question to Kyle, who's joining us. The first match New Zealand played, bowled first, and then the match was set up right there at the end of that first innings when they were playing Sri Lanka. So you reckon New Zealand would be happier of the two teams bowling first here?
Yeah, for sure. No surprise there. The reports I was receiving before this morning, before the toss, that's going to be a fresh wicket. When Bangladesh last played at the Oval, it was a used wicket, so that favours them a little bit. A fresh wicket, just like the New Zealand side got in Cardiff 3 days ago against Sri Lanka, was almost a New Zealand wicket. Green, it moved around, the delight on the bowler's faces you could see from a mile away. So it's no surprise that New Zealand have won the toss and Kane Williamson is elected to bowl first to continue the momentum and try and get on the front foot very early on.
Okay, we'll take a look at the New Zealand playing 11, what we're getting to know. No changes there as far as the New Zealand team is concerned. The same team that played against Sri Lanka is exactly the same team that will be playing versus Bangladesh. Kyle, if I could ask you, maybe one thing they could have considered, maybe someone like Ish Sodhi, the spinner, to come in, because I'm just looking at the fast bowling options. They've got 3 regular fast bowlers, and also you've got Colin de Granholm who can bowl seam up, James Neesham there too. So plenty of options as far as seam bowlers are concerned. If they really wanted a spinner, that could have been an option they could have looked at.
Look, there's plenty of ways for Kane Williamson and the coach Gary Stead to skin the cat and to find the right balance. I guess 2 players were not considered for selection, Tim Southey and Henry Nichols. So you're down to 13 in the squad, and you make a very good point for Ish Sodhi, because at the back end of the tournament, when the wickets tend to get a little bit lower and slower, look, all the talk before the tournament that wickets were going to be low and slow, and 350 was going to be the case, but we've seen lots of wickets early on in all the games so far. So Ish may come into play at the back end of the tournament, but it's an important game for both teams. If you get 2 wins first up and your first 2 games to be top of that table, it gives you a lot of momentum moving forward. So it's no surprise that they've kept the same 11 from that team that performed so well against Sri Lanka.
Ajit, what do you reckon? The reason I talk about Ish Sodhi also because it's not Cardiff, Oval, you might have spinners really coming.
Yeah, but it's a fresh pitch. They've decided to bowl first. Could be because it's a good pitch as well, that they want to know or want to chase a total. There's nothing wrong with the way they've played in that first game. Unless the conditions have changed drastically and it's going to be a rank turner, I don't see any reason why you want to make changes. I mean, the team's played, the 11 that's played has played really well, be it in seaming conditions. And you don't want to, it's this early in the tournament, and unnecessarily chop and change for the sake of it, unless the conditions demanded, which I don't think in this case they do.
Maybe the first game that they played, one, it was in Cardiff, it was a track that was going to help fast bowlers. The other bit, Sri Lanka in that game had plenty of left-handers. I think they had more left-handers than right-handers, but now you'd get a few right-handers there, which is why I mentioned maybe a leg spinner could have been given a look.
Yeah, I think most teams, they opt for a little bit of variety for the opposition. But I agree, this New Zealand team, there's no need to change this formula. It's only their second game in this World Cup campaign, so you don't want to be tinkering too much and putting players off and creating disappointments, especially when you have a winning combination. This is a good all-round New Zealand team. I think Kyle is quite right. As we go deeper into this tournament with the wear and tear on pitches, maybe warmer conditions in England, spinners will come more and more into play, and they will have a greater weighting in terms of being selected on respective teams.
Well, they already have a spinner there in Santner in the New Zealand team. We'll take a look at the Bangladesh playing 11 as well. Let's see if they've made any changes to their playing 11 of the one that we saw in the previous game. Okay, what we're getting to know, no changes there for Bangladesh too. Again, I'm just going to throw that question to Shahriar. Nafees, just looking at the spin options that they've got, it's exactly contrary to what we see with New Zealand. They had plenty of seam bowling options. Bangladesh has plenty of spinning options. So clearly different thought process. But if they really needed to strengthen their fast bowling option, they could have looked at Rubul Hussain. They haven't. Shahriar, can you hear us? That was for you.
Yeah, I can. What I believe is Bangladesh is going to play with their strength, and playing with Saqib and Mehdi has been their strength. Bangladesh will not want to give the strength away to New Zealand. Traditionally, New Zealand are a good fast bowling. They have a good fast bowling unit, and they like to dominate. What I believe is, if there is not much swing, Saqib and Mehdi Miraj, even Mahmudullah or Mosaddek, they can just come bowl and just keep the run rate bit down. Oval has been a high scoring ground, and what I believe Bangladesh would like to put up a good total and then defend the total with whatever the strength they have. They have got 3 seamers, 2 spinners, and maybe Mosaddek and Mahmudullah can bowl. Bangladesh at this moment, what I believe or what I feel, they are backing at their strength up, and when they back their strength and play according to their strength, they are a good enough side.
Daren, you didn't want New Zealand to make any changes. What about Bangladesh? Because we're getting to know there might be overcast conditions there, and we've seen a new track, as Ajit was mentioning. Maybe a quick bowler in there?
Not really. I think that will probably take away from their tried and tested formula for winning matches. I think the main challenge for Bangladesh will be their consistency in all departments. With the bat, with the ball in the field, they were excellent. Some of their fast bowlers. They were able to get a little bit of reverse swing with the old ball. Mohammad Saifuddin, I think he did that and he picked up wickets which were crucial at the back end of the innings. So I would not change that for me. Look at Mehdi Hassan, Shakib Al Hassan, all these guys, they not only contribute with the ball, they're exciting in the field and they also could bat and contributed runs. The big question for Bangladesh, in my estimation, will be about the lesser-known players like Ashumo Shaka, who was so impactful in that game against South Africa. He was the only guy in that top 6 that was striking at around 140, and it sort of psychologically gave them the advantage. Can he do that maybe in overcast conditions again? That consistency is what I'm looking forward to.
All right, we love to talk about Soumya Sarkar. He looked outstanding for Bangladesh in the first match that he played. He's averaging very, very well in one-day cricket now, and that strike rate is over 100 for Soumya Sarkar. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little later, but for the moment, we'll take a look at the Oval Cricket Ground. That's where the encounter would be played. It's a new strip where the match will be played out. Let's take a look at the venue stats.
This is the Kennington Oval, known at different points in history as the Oval, the AMP Oval, the Foster's Oval, the Brit Oval, the Kia Oval, and, on occasion, that other ground in London. Let's take a really quick tour. Located less than 10 kilometres from Lord's, the Oval has a more chilled out vibe to it, which basically means the turf isn't hallowed and you're allowed to walk in through the main gates even if you're just a fan. You also probably remember it as the one that has the famous metal frame of the gasworks in the backdrop, because commentators talk about it every time there's a break in play. It may be less spiritual, but the Oval has a really rich history. The first ever test on English soil against Australia in 1880 was played here. And apart from cricket, the ground used to host a number of football and rugby games, including the inaugural FA Cup final in 1872. The Oval was also requisitioned during World War II to hold prisoners of war, but it was never used for that purpose. The West Indies have won all 5 World Cup games they've played at this venue. But before you get too excited, all 5 were played between 1975 and 1983, when they were really awesome. The Kennington Oval will host 5 matches at this World Cup, including the tournament opener between England and South Africa, and the high-profile India-Australia clash. In the unlikely scenario that those games do not provide enough drama, you can find your way to Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, 15 minutes away.
All right, here's the stats there for the Oval Cricket Ground. Average first innings score at the venue is 309. Teams batting first have won 3 out of the 5 matches that they've played. And pace bowlers, this is the last 5 completed ODIs. And pace bowlers, the average there is 31 for them, an economy of 5.8. Spinners are averaging 59 with an economy of 6.3. So clearly, the fast bowlers seem to be having a better time here at this ground. But Ajit, those stats of the last 5 ODIs would definitely be all these, we're getting to see the bilateral series where you see 350, 380. Now we've seen in the World Cup, when it gets the tournament proper, then those scores don't really come.
I guess so, though Bangladesh did win, batting first, and they got a 330 on the board. Anytime you get 330, you'll fancy your chances as a team. The opposition will have to bat really well, or you'll have to have a tough day with the ball to not defend 330 plus. Look, it's always a good pitch. I don't expect anything else. I think New Zealand, maybe we haven't seen the conditions, might be a little bit overcast, maybe because it's a bit fresher, there might be some sort of early help with 2 new balls. But I think more they would have taken this decision, one, how they went in that first game, and also because it's such a good pitch to bat usually. That chasing becomes, if you can bat well, you can chase anything down here. Right? Even though the last 5 one-days, it's 3-2, so it's not that skewed in favor of batting first. So now you'd rather know the target when it's such a good pitch these days, the ability that the batters have. you can chase down anything if you can bat well.
I was going to take that question to you. You know, despite the ground stats saying that, you know, it's best to bat first, not too much of a margin as Ajit says, but New Zealand have clearly backed their strength. Fast bowling is their strength. You know, it's not just Trent Bolt, the other bowlers chipping into, so rather go with that first.
Yeah, you play to your strengths. I mean, you can't play to what the opposition has. I mean, I think you can use your strengths and you can strategize to sort of exploit the deficiencies of the opposition team. But I think when you look at this New Zealand team and what they've accomplished, you would think that their worst game is not as far away from their best game. They've been consistent as a side. I spoke about their batting. Yes, there might have been a little bit of concern with their opening pair, and they got runs at the top of the innings. So it's about seeing how they can, you know, chase this total set by Bangladesh. Their bowling seems very disciplined and suited for English conditions. And I think that is what they will invest in going forward in this tournament. If they come up with conditions that are more suitable for spinners, I think the suggestion that you make for an Sodi will come into play.
Later,
and you have to give credit to Kane Williamson. He's a very shrewd captain. He's got a very good track record, and you could have confidence in his decision making in terms of planning and in terms of on the field as well.
Right, you've got plenty of match winners in both the sides. One of them is Shakib Al Hasan, and it's a great day for the Bangladesh all-rounder because he's going to be playing his 200th ODI for Bangladesh, only the third player to do so for the country. And we're taking a look back at some of his memories. He's talking about the 2007 World Cup, the World Cup where they beat India.
In 2007, Bangladesh were playing India for the first time in a World Cup. It was expected to be an easy win for one team. It was.
Well, I'll remember that, you know, as long as I live, because it was a very, I would say, you know, emotional win for us. Emotional in a sense, for me, it was like a dream come true at that situation, because I used to watch Sachin, Saurabh Ganguly, Rahul Dravid, you know, playing on TV. And suddenly I was playing with them, you know, against them. So, and, you know, get a result like that in a World Cup, you know, what more you could ask as a youngster when, you know, I was, I think 19 or 20 at that time. I just played 4 or 5 ODIs and then straight into the World Cup, first game of the World Cup, playing against India, you know, it can't get bigger than that. So it was a great memory.
It was that one game that Ajit Agarkar didn't want us to talk about in the show, but we've managed to do just that. I had the privilege of being there on the ground on that day. We also have someone from Trinidad. It happened in Port of Spain, that match. I know you don't want to talk about that game.
I don't remember it.
but I'm just talking about Shakib Al Hasan. He talks about 18, 19. He's come a long way since then. Huh?
Oh, incredible. Yeah. You see his numbers. I mean, not just the 200 one day that he's going to play, but his numbers are on par with a lot of the all-rounders or the top all-rounders that world cricket's produced. And that's tells you, one, the longevity and also the performances to last that long, but also be on par with some of the great top all-rounders in recent times. Tell you how good he's been. He's probably one of the guys, you know, on a consistent level has competed against some of the top teams around the world for a period of time. So a massive asset for Bangladesh and such an important player for them.
I'd like to Shahriar's thoughts on this. You know, what has he done for Bangladesh cricket in general? We all know about his records, which are outstanding. He's the #1 all-rounder in the world at the moment. But in general, the impact that he's had on Bangladesh cricket, Shakib Al Hasan?
This, I can talk about his impact on Bangladesh cricket day in, day out, every time, every single time. He has been one of the ambassadors of Bangladesh cricket. He is the player who has shown the world what Bangladesh can do. If you look back 10 years of Bangladesh cricket from back and see the great wins, either Tamim has performed or Shakib has performed. And Shakib with the bat, ball, field, with the leadership, whether he's a captain or not, he has taken Bangladesh cricket single-handedly in a different level. Wherever he has played, he has performed. He has been the icon of Bangladesh cricket, and I'm very glad that he has played 200 matches and hope he will play 200 matches more and bring lot of success for Bangladesh.
Right. One very interesting thing Shahriar had said yesterday was the fact that Shakib has actually shown Bangladesh that you just can't be best in your country, you can be best in the world. Probably the first player that they got who's dominating world cricket as far as the all-rounders are concerned. He's been right on top of that pile for a very, very long time. We'll take a look at Shakib Hassan, the batsman now, very closely, because he contributes with the bat now in a different sort of avatar. We're seeing that from number 3 to 4 when he bats there, he's got a great average, a great strike rate as well, 5 to 7, which is a position we used to bat more often than not in his career, is where he averaged still pretty good at 33 and a strike rate of 82, but it's improved when they've really given him that responsibility. Clearly, Daren is enjoying that role. You've given him that responsibility as a senior player and he's really flourishing.
Look, some players, they're able to, embrace challenges. Shakib Al Hasan is one such player who has embraced the challenge of batting higher in this order and taking responsibility. And I think he's done it not just for his self-interest, for the interest of the team, because when he bats there, I think he offers that seniority, that experience with the other lesser players in his team. He can kind of control the innings, so to speak, with the bat. Shahriar spoke about his leadership skills. He's had the opportunity to captain this Bangladesh team across formats. So that experience, that leadership, that sort of father figure person in Bangladesh's cricket is a positive thing for a young player. And you heard him talking about how it was when he just started playing for Bangladesh. Yeah. I think what has been instrumental with Shakib Al Hasan, he has given Bangladesh's cricket and cricketers hope in terms of believing that they can compete against the best in world cricket and conquer as well. And I think the Bangladesh team we're seeing now as against the Bangladesh team maybe in the early 2000s is a totally different Bangladesh team where everyone believes that they have as good a chance as the opposition in one-day cricket.
The other thing you think it may just help him and his style of batting is the fact that if you're pushing him there, he gets to bat in that power play. And we've seen him clear the infield pretty often, which may not be happening when he was batting at 6,
it's
7.
such a good thing for any team that one of your senior players assumes the responsibility. I mean, we've been talking about Sri Lanka for the last few days, and Angelo Matthews exactly the opposite way, dropping himself down the order. You want to see your leaders show the way, and for an experienced player like Shakib, if he can go up the order and do it, I mean, him and Mushfiqur batting at 3 and 4 makes a huge difference. So I know we've got some numbers.
All right. Just one word I'll take from Kyle Mills also on Shakib Al Hasan. We're getting to know that New Zealand have been using Ajaz Patel, the left-arm spinner, in the nets. So clearly they regard Shakib Al Hasan as a threat and are really working hard on that aspect.
Yeah, well, look, huge threat. As I stated earlier on, Shakib Al Hasan wasn't out in New Zealand in the New Zealand summer, so they haven't played him in some time. And just adding on how good a player he is, Shakib Al Hasan, he's not one of those players who performs in his own conditions. He's one of the first Bangladesh players to put consistent performances outside of Bangladesh. I'm talking about in England, in Australia, in New Zealand. He's just put good performances on. He's led the way for that Bangladesh side. But, look, he'll be one of those players leading up to this game for the New Zealand side that they would have scouted. They would have found out what he's been doing lately, what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, and how are they going to counteract him.
All right, we'll now turn our attention to the New Zealand bowling, and one man who's going to be very crucial, we saw that in that first game versus Sri Lanka, was Matt Henry, and he's got most 4-wicket hauls there for New Zealand in ODIs. Shane Bond is right on top there with 11, and you can see Matt Henry just 42 innings. He's already got 8 4-wickets haul. He's had a great start, Kyle, to his international career, as the numbers suggest.
Yeah, look, he's always been a wicket taker, Matt Henry. He bowls with great accuracy, bowls with good pace around that 140-kilometre mark, and he just bowls hard into the wicket and gets a little bit of movement. He's one of those bowlers, a little bit like Agarkar actually, always makes the batsman play. And on wickets that are just doing a little bit, he really comes into his zone.
All right, we probably wouldn't have seen a lot of him. Saudi is injured. Maybe that's given him a chance. Now Saudi is going to find it tough to make it back to the playing 11.
Well, I think Saudi is a player in his own right, deserving of being in this New Zealand side, and they might possibly make way for him. I always believe competition is healthy, and if you have players who are competing and performing, that's a good headache for any selector or any captain to have. again, it just shows the strength in the reserves in this New Zealand team. If you can have a player walking in with one opportunity at the start of a World Cup who might not have felt that he would have been in the starting 11 to perform like Matt Henry did, I think that augurs well for New Zealand cricket and for their campaign in this World Cup.
Okay, we'll also take a look at how the wickets have broken down there for Matt Henry. How is it he performs in different phases of the game? We showed you as far as 4 wicket hauls are concerned, he's right on top. And then in the top order, he picks up 51% of the wicket, and that's something that any captain would like to have, a bowler like that. We kept talking about Ajit Trent Bolt being that guy who gets them early breakthrough, but look at those numbers there, 51% of his wicket.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah.
At average of 24, I mean, I believe that you should always look at guys who are going to get you wickets. I think, there are certain bowlers who will do another type of role, but if you have a wicket taker, you've got to gamble on those guys. I mean, the way one-day cricket's gone at the moment, yes, this particular World Cup has had some challenging wickets where the scores haven't been that high, but we'll see as the tournament progresses, you'll need to keep getting wickets, and you've got to have guys who are going to do that for you. I mean, you look at Indian teams, there are 3 or 4 guys at the moment who can get you wickets, especially in the middle of the innings, if need be. So a wicket taker, priceless, any bowler.
I just want to add, in that first game against Sri Lanka, many of his wickets came off full deliveries, and that's what I think most fast bowlers will need to do in English conditions. Their length is so crucial. Yes, you will have the impact bowlers that will go short, but Matt Henry is a guy who is not afraid to pitch the ball up. You know, LBW, caught in slip, getting batsmen driving the ball. I think that is the ideal sort of bowler you want opening the bowling for you in English conditions.
Right, he's picked up a lot of wickets, as Daren is saying, bowling those deliveries right up to the batsman, but he's got pace on him, so he can bowl those short pitch deliveries. And that takes me to my next question. Shahriar, I'll come to you on this one. We saw New Zealand being rather successful when they were playing that game versus Sri Lanka, bowling a few short pitch deliveries there. But Bangladesh, on the other hand, are you looking forward to that contest? Soumya Sarkar, we saw him play the short pitch deliveries very, very well when they were playing South Africa. This particular contest, some quick New Zealand bowlers and Soumya Sarkar with the bat in his hand?
What I believe is the pace and the bounce will not be a problem. What can be the problem is the swing. If Trent Bolt, Matt Henry, Lockie Ferguson, De Home swings the ball in overcast condition, that is going to be the problem. South Africa bowled short pitch deliveries and they got hammered. And Soumya Sarkar, Tamim, Saqib, Mushfiq, they all handled the fast bouncy ball and the quick ball very well. But if the ball starts swinging, then the batsman has to bring their B game, the B plan B, how they're going to use the swinging ball for scoring runs. That will be the key.
All right, it's going to be an exciting game. Plenty of contests within the entire match that would be played between Bangladesh and New Zealand. But you can also participate. You can play your own game. We've got a game going on ESPN Cricinfo. It's called Cricket Picks, and here's how you can be a part of it.
Put your tipping to the test. Play Cricket Picks, the new predictor game from ESPN Cricinfo. Make predictions and track your progress throughout the tournament. The easiest thing you'll do all day. Go to espncricinfo.com/cricketpicks and play today.
All right, so these are the picks then for the game today. We asked our experts, and everyone's gone with New Zealand, including Shahriar Nafees. Shahriar, quick comment?
Like you have to be realistic. If you look at two teams in the conditions and the strength they have, New Zealand will have upper but a little bit, but against the South Africans, Bangladesh bring their best game, and if Bangladesh can play their best game, they can beat anyone anywhere in the world.
All right, maybe those predictions were made before Bangladesh played against South Africa, but the two of you, I'll take a quick comment there. Not quite confident on Bangladesh now, or it's just the matchup that you've gone with New Zealand?
I think it's a matchup, New Zealand, as I've said before, a little more complete in terms of all departments of the game and more consistent. I question the consistency of this Bangladesh team. I'm not questioning their potential and their ability, But I think for them to rise again and to play an amazing game like we saw they did against South Africa, it will be a bigger challenge.
Okay, a quick word from Kyle Mills as well. You don't want to return the favor and maybe pick Bangladesh after Shahriar has picked New Zealand. But anyway, I'll just ask you a question, a point that Shahriar made there about, the kind of bowling that you'd want New Zealand to bowl. He said they should be wary of not bowling too many short pitch deliveries because Bangladesh can handle that. If you really pitch it up, if the ball swings, that's when Bangladesh will be in trouble.
Yeah, as we saw in Cardiff a few nights ago against Sri Lanka, Trent Boult and Matt Henry really tried to use the conditions to their favour. It was a green wicket and it was swinging around. So they'll tend to pitch the ball a bit fuller to try and give them the best opportunity to get perhaps the LBW, the caught behind or the bowled. But sometimes leading up to those deliveries, you need to push the batsman back. And normally when a New Zealand side does play against a subcontinent team, they tend to push them back and then try and bring them forward. So I'm pretty confident that they'll pitch the ball up nice and early, see how that goes. If wicket's not going to New Zealanders' way, then they'll push the Bangladesh boys back and then try and drag them forward to get the wickets.
Right, if the ball is swinging, then you want Kyle Mills to have the ball in his hand and bowling because that's exactly what he did in his playing careers. Finally on our show, this is just a reminder, 48 matches, 96 innings, 28,800 balls. We are following every ball here, and you know what? We are also going to play the game as it happens on Hotstar Watch and Play, where you don't just watch the match, you play it live alongside your favorite cricketer. That's all that we have for you at the moment on the show. Thanks so much for joining us, Daren, Ganga, Ajit, Agarkar, Kyle Mills and Shahriar Nafees. We'll now see you during the mid-inning.